So on page 302, section, the very first part of chapter 9, make sure you know the vocabulary there, the vocab. All right. Section 9.1, there's not really anything specific there. Section 9.2, we're now on page 303. Make sure you know the structure of the skeletal muscle. I would suggest studying figure 9.2. And that figure is located on page 304. Under connective tissue coverings, make sure you know the difference between the endomysium, the paramecium, and the epimysium. And if I get going too fast, please speak up, okay? Because I know you all have a lot more writing to do. I'll also am recording this review and I'll post it to the YouTube channel. Yes, ma'am.
The last ones I got endomysium and then
Paramecium and then epimysium. Basically, if you look under connective tissue coverings, that heading on page 303, anything that's got an underline in boldface print, that would be good to know. Table 9.1 on page 304. That would be a really good list and describe question, for example. Underneath that, know the difference between a tendon and an aponeurosis. Know what a compartment is. Deep fascia, subcutaneous fascia, and subserous fascia. Know those and know the differences. Still on page 304. If you look under compartments and fascia,
can you repeat those?
sure. Deep fascia, subcutaneous fascia, and subserous fascia. In your book, if you see something on a massage therapist, right beneath that there should be a section labeled compartments and fascia. That's where it talks about it. That might help you a little bit. I going slow enough?
Mhm.
Okay, good. So, for skeletal muscle fibers, make sure you know the sarcolemma, the sarcoplasm, and the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Flip over to page 307. And basically what I want you to do is be able to describe the process of a muscle contraction. Describe the process of a skeletal muscle contraction. Did everybody get that? The best resources I can think on this, if you take a look at figure 9.8, that should be on page 308. Looks like this. I suggest starting in the upper right-hand corner. Everybody see where it says muscle contraction, and then you got that big teal arrow pointing straight down? That's a good place to start. If you prefer a written description of it, table 9.2, which should be on page 310. And you pretty much are guaranteed to know that that question is going to be on the exam, right? If you prefer to draw it rather than write it out on the exam, that will be fine. So does everybody know where those resources are? Does anybody need me to go over any part of that again? Book does a really good job of talking about it, but since that whole section is several pages, I want you to just distill it down to be able to give me a 3 or 4 sentence description, okay? You don't have to write a page. I don't expect you to memorize the diagram. I don't expect you to memorize the table. I just want you to understand the process from start to finish. Everybody clear on that? If you are, give me a thumbs up. Okay, looks like you are good to go. Now, under energy sources for contraction, you don't have to worry about that. I do want you to know what myoglobin is. This is on page 312. It's under oxygen supply and cellular respiration. Know what myoglobin is, know what it does. Does everyone see that? Below that, you're going to see 2 sections. One is labeled oxygen debt, It continues on page 313 with muscle fatigue. Be able to describe both conditions. Be able to describe oxygen debt. Be able to describe muscle fatigue. Everybody okay with that? All right. 9.4. This is on page, I still think we're still on 313, am I correct?
Yeah, going into 314.
Huh?
It's the last part of 313 going into 314.
Okay,
or
thank you.
118 on the electronic copy.
So make sure you know what a threshold stimulus is. Know what a twitch is? If you flip over to page 315, under summation and tetanus, you'll see two words underlined, summation and tetany. Summation and tetany. Know what those are. Page 316. Know the difference between isotonic and isometric contractions. Know the difference between concentric and eccentric contractions.
It was isotonic and what?
Isometric. If you look in that section I told you, you should see all four of those underlined. Page 317. If you look underneath the blue box that says clinical application, go beneath that, and you should see three types of muscle fibers. Type 1 are the SO or slow oxidative. Type 2A are the FO or fast oxidative. And type 2B are the FG or fast glycolytic. Does everyone see those three? Be able to describe and differentiate between those three types. Again, that would be a very good question for the exam. Hint, hint. Flat out too nice to you all. Joking aside, is this helping? Good. There's so much material, I just thought it might be worth doing this. And with a week, that gives you enough time, I think, to study it pretty well. Okay, let's flip over to page, whatever the next page is. Smooth muscle 318. Know the difference between multi-unit smooth muscle and visceral smooth muscle, visceral. Know what peristalsis is? And I think that's enough of that, don't you? I just like seeing your expressions when you read. Okay, flip the page, and we should be on cardiac muscle. It's 318 going into 319. Main thing to know here is that cardiac muscle has intercalated discs. Intercalated discs. Those form cross bands and give it a three-dimensional structure. If you take a look, you'll see that term is italicized. It's in the second paragraph on page 319. There's a nice little blurb there that kind of lets you know the difference between the two. Everybody okay with that one? Same page, table 9.3 will be rather valuable to you, I think. Main thing, be able to differentiate between the three types of muscle cells. What's the difference between the three? You don't have to worry about dimensions, obviously. Main thing to know, where are they found? What's their function? Multinucleate or uninucleate? Do they have striations? Voluntary or involuntary? That cuts a little bit of that out, doesn't it? Golly says cut more. Section 9.7 and 9.8, we've more or less covered that in lab, so you don't have to worry about those two particular sections. That okay with everyone? It's not like we're blowing it off, but we've spent more than enough time on that in lab. I think we're okay with it. All right, so that's it for chapter 9. Are there any questions over chapter 9 or what I just went over? Okay, so chapter 10. I spent a fair amount of time talking about the senses. Remember that? Be able to talk about the senses, what they are, where they're located, how they work. It's not just taste, smell, sound, sight, and touch, is it? Touch is really pressure. You've also got temperature. You've also got pain. You've You've got balance. We didn't go into that one, but you're able to sense equilibrium and balance. Some of them combined, you've got a sense of spatial awareness. If I ask a question on that, it will be fairly general, so don't worry about drilling down and telling me exactly what's going on with the photoreceptors in the eye, because we get into that later. I just want you to understand that the nervous system has a lot of input, doesn't it? It's not just the integration and processing. That input is just as important as is the output. So everybody got that? Page 369, is that where the vocab is? So that'll be something to study. What are we up to? A couple of pages on the review now? Trying to make sure it's a review. I'm not trying to pack so much in here. If I start to get up to 3 or 4 pages, let me know. So, let's see, same page, I guess. Section 10.1, general characteristics of the nervous system. Main thing I want you to understand are the 3 functions: sensory input, integration and processing, motor output. Now, we're going to talk about the subdivisions here. There is the central nervous system and the peripheral. The peripheral can further be divided into the afferent and efferent, or you could say sensory and motor. Either one is fine. The motor can also be subdivided into the somatic, S-O-M-A-T-I-C, or the autonomic, And all of that is discussed fairly well on this particular page, this particular section. I'm not going to go into the details on that. It's there if you're interested and want to know. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Take a look at section 10.2, figure 10.3. I think this is on page 370, am I correct?
372.
Huh?
372.
Should look like this, everybody see it? Be able to either draw that or describe it. I'm not going to be picky about it. I just want you to know the differences between the cell body, the processes. Remember, there are 2 types of processes, dendrites and an axon. The dendrites are receiving, the axon is transmitting. It only goes one way. Know the myelin sheath, know the nodes of Ranvier. Everybody okay with that one? The next thing, I would suggest you take a look at table 10.1 on page 376. know the information in that table. The book does a very good job on the previous pages describing and diagramming all that. I'm not going to go over this again. We've talked about it in lecture, but I want you to be able to either draw it, describe it, or write about it. Just know the information, okay? Whatever helps you learn it best. If you need me to go over it again in detail, I can do that on Thursday.
What page?
Everybody, huh?
What page?
It is on page, what did I say? 376.
Oh,
131 if you're using the electronic version. Everybody with me? Okay. Now flip to the page 378. 378. Types of neuroglia. Does everybody see that? Table 10.2. Again, the previous couple of pages does a great job of talking about this. Make sure you know the information, whatever format you prefer. That sound good? Gives you some choice, gives you some selectivity. Any questions over all that? Know, this is not in the book. Know what the blood-brain barrier is. Know the general structure. And also know how it works, its function, and how it achieves that. Again, as you are looking over your notes and any other materials you want, if you find yourself needing more information on that, ask me on Thursday and I will be happy to talk about it, okay? I want you to have a couple days to look at it on your own, but I don't want you to feel, because that's not in the book. If you look online and you don't look at your notes and you feel you don't grasp it, that's okay. We can talk about it more. We're ahead of the game. We've got the time. I want you to spend it well. Sound good? Okay. Now, your book spends section 10.3, 10.4, 10.5, 10.6, all of those talking in detail about how a nerve impulse happens. So you're pretty much guaranteed to have a question that says, describe how a nerve impulse works. Don't get caught up in the weeds. And by that I mean, don't be worrying so much about membrane potential, resting membrane potential, this particular ion, that particular ion, blah, 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 okay? Not because it's unimportant, but because I'm wanting you to focus on the big picture and understand how the cell is able to generate an electrical impulse and pass it on. Again, as you are reading those 2 or 3 sections, as you're looking over your notes, if you feel you don't understand it and you want me to try to spend some time on Thursday summarizing it, I will be glad to. Does that sound fair? Okay, good. So I don't want you getting caught up in the weeds. I don't want you worrying too much about details. Just be able to understand how it works. I particularly find table 10.3 on page 385 to be most helpful. Everybody got all that down? All right, let's flip over to page 388. Take a look at table 10.4, where it talks about some neurotransmitters. Table 10.5 and table 10.6. I want you to know the neurotransmitters in 10.4. For table 10.5, you only have to pick two conditions. You pick them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 there. You pick 2 to learn. If I give you that question, it would be list and describe 2 disorders associated with neurotransmitter or chemical imbalances in the brain. Is that fair, you think? Because I don't think you need to know all of that. And let's see. Table 10.6. There's 10 of them, so again, know 2 drugs and how it affects the neurotransmitter. Does that sound reasonable? Again, you pick the 2. I'm sorry?
Do we just need to know the acetylcholine or whatever for 10.4?
No, you need to know acetylcholine, norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, and histamine. Don't worry about the amino acids or the neuropeptides or gases. Does that sound reasonable? That cuts it?
Can you repeat that again?
Sure. Acetylcholine, ACH. And then the 4 that are listed under biogenic amines: norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, and histamine. And those are the only neurotransmitters I'll expect you to know. And I think that's it.